Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and this is literally the third time I have tried to do this freaking video. So, I'm a little drained, highly disappointed in myself, and yeah, kind of in a little bit of a mood, but that's neither here nor there. We are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we get going this morning, a few disclaimers. First off, I am suffering from a very severe case of pissed off at the planet plus autism brain fog plus this far from a meltdown because there is air by space. Yep, it's one of those hypersensory issues days. So, and not just that, but I've been out in public because somehow Food for Less manages to not keep eggs and decent protein powder on hand. So, usual disclaimers, folks. All right. First off, you are going to find the link to the report we're getting ready to read right there in the description box, along with the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including the very important Autistic Hoya's massive archive on this subject. You also have the templates, sign your name, click on your senator, and the ever-present change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. Now, when we talk about the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of peoples with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you have young children present, please use your headphones. Also, folks, I am in a special place this afternoon. So, if I stumble over any of my words, bleh, bleh, you see what I mean? You see what I mean? My apology, folks, in advance, alright? Please pray that, some dark chocolate will be thrown into my general direction. Maybe I'll hit commission and I can get some of my favorite dark chocolate with mint. God, that would make my life feel so much better right now. But neither here nor there. So this was a report, guys, that came out back in 2006. It was an investigation done by the New York State. All right. And this was in the wake of the 2006 trial of Evelyn and Antoine versus the JRC in the Freeport School District. So, observations and findings of out-of-state program visitation, Judge Rotenberg Educational Center. Review team, we won't read their names. Background information. The Judge Rotenberg Center, JRC, formerly known as the Behavioral Research Institute, is a private residential school located in Canton, Massachusetts. JRC is currently approved by New York State Education Department under Chapter 853 of the Laws of 1976 as a residential school serving students with autism, intellectual disabilities, come on people, emotional disturbance, and multiple disabilities. The fact that New York State gets away with saying these terms when Missouri, and I'm talking Missouri Bible Belt people, have gotten rid of those terms a long time ago. If Missouri's beating you, I'm just saying, think about it. JRC serves students who exhibit serious behaviors that interfere with learning and provides intensive behavioral treatment programs to students 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's a lot to correct you on right there. Explain to me how me blinking affects the next person to me with their learning. Oh, that's right, it doesn't. How does me stimming in any way affect the student next to me unless they are already not paying attention? Yeah, that's what I thought. Folks, it is a wonderful thing that you are investigating the JRC, but while we are doing so, we need to internalize and look at our own blatant ableism and how we ourselves treat people with disabilities. We don't get to bend over backwards to pat ourselves on the back when we exhibit some of the very same behaviors that end up getting these kids slammed into these horrific schools in the first place. These out of date ideas and perceptions of disabilities. Instead of adapting and getting your teachers the proper training that they need to be able to handle students with disabilities, you leave them high and dry with no training, and then you blame the student. And then you send them somewhere else. I'm just saying. Let's take a deep look into ourselves. By the way, I am by no means not guilty of same behaviors. I had to take that journey many years ago. Look into my own ableism. Check myself. Re-educate myself. So I am by no means a saint in the past. But if we are going to be fighting places like the JRC, we shouldn't stop there. We should take a look at our own programs and the very types of conditions that get kids sent to these type of schools in the first place. Okay? There is a major failing there, and we really need to start thinking about it and think about how we're educating these kids inside public schools, why we're not giving teachers the tools that need in order to be able to handle it. There's a lot there to dissect, okay? All right, moving on. Recent activity. Based on documentation provided by the program subsequent to a previous site visit, which raised concern about JRC's use of adversive interventions, as well as recent questions from legislators, the Board of Regents, and others, NYSED conducted a review of JRC's program on April the 25th and 26th, and on May the 16th, 17th, and 18th, 2006. The review was conducted by NYSED staff and 3 behavioral psychologists in the role of independent consultants. Excuse me. The April 25th, 26th review was an announced visit. The May 16th, 18th review was an announced visit. The purpose of these visits was to conduct a review of the behavioral intervention program at JRC to gain an understanding of the scope of the behavior intervention plans, to identify any health and safety issues related to JRC's use of adversive interventions, to identify the general standards for implementing and monitoring students' behavior plans, to determine if interventions are commensurate with the level of behavior difficulties the students are exhibiting, and to determine if students are receiving behavior interventions consistent with their individualized education programs. Now, when I say special education needed an overhaul yesterday, by the way, folks, it does, okay? Big time. Big time. And on a freaking national scale. But I'll get into that another day here. Methods used for the site review in April and May included a review of school policies, student records, observation of school and education programs, and staff policies, student records, and student interviews. I'm going to reread that. Please spare me. Methods used for the site review in April and May included the review of school policies, student records, observation of school and education programs, and staff and student interviews. A sample of 12 New York students were selected for review from the 71 NYS students receiving adversive interventions that included electric skin shock, food contingent programs, and or manual or mechanical restraints. Level C, behavioral interventions, which are horrific and torture. You listen to the UN New York, I mean, they do have one of their biggest buildings in your city. The students were randomly selected based on age and disability category. The school district of residence of the student was also considered to ensure that the sample included students from the district other than New York City, where most NYS students served at JRC reside. In addition, the registered dietitian, RD, reviewed records of 4 students on the contingent food program, 1 student on the specialized food program, and 1 student that was reported to be at nutritional risk. All of them are at nutritional risk. When somebody can remove your food because you have a behavior that comes directly due to your neurological makeup, don't get me started. Do not get me started. I'm sure, New York, that their 3 weeks of training make them more than capable to handle people who have various disabilities, and they're experts in 3 weeks, right? We should just trust them. Freaking Twilight Zone. I'm in the fucking Twilight Zone. Observations conducted throughout the 5 days of the site review, including observations of school residence environments, classroom instructional periods, transition periods, and transportation periods, and observations of personal, program operations, student personnel interactions, and student activities. Interviews with JRC staff, including the following: Director of Clinical Services Psychologist, Director of Quality Assurance, Director of Curriculum, nurse, nutritionist, chef, 2 classroom teachers, and 4 classroom aides. Interviews with 5 students with verbal skills sufficient to participate in an interview process. Could you sound more ableist if you tried? God damn. 3 students had psychiatric diagnoses. Another was duly diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and psychiatric diagnoses. And the 5th was diagnosed with autism and psychiatric diagnoses. And interviews with chairpersons from NYS committees on special education, CSE, of 2 former and 1 current student at JRC were conducted. Summary of findings. Following is a summary of the findings of concern, primarily relating to the behavioral interventions and related instructional practices used at JRC. The findings represent the collective professional opinion of the site review team members based on the data obtained from a review of written information, direct observations, and interviews entertained during and related to the April and May 2006 site reviews. These findings include specific observations and or information obtained during the review process that support the conclusions of the team. The integrity of the behavioral programming at JRC is not sufficiently monitored by the appropriate professionals at the school, and in many cases the background and preparation of staff is not sufficient to oversee the intensive treatment of children with challenging and emotional and behavioral problems. Thank you! Hallelujah! Somebody's figured it out. Good God! Thank you. You know what? I take it back, New York. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. See, no one in their right mind would put someone barely out of high school with 3 weeks training into a school like this. Okay? Nobody in their right mind would put someone with so little training into a position of authority over vulnerable kids. Thank you. God, that was almost better than chocolate. JRC employs a general use of Level 3 adversive behavioral interventions to students with broad range of disabilities, many without a clear history of self-injurious behaviors. Boom! Boom! Right there, folks. Right there. But you know what? It doesn't matter whether they have self-injurious behaviors or not. Someone explain the goddamn logic that says, oh, we don't want them to hurt themselves, so we're going to hurt them? What? Just, wow. JRC employs a general use of Level 3 adversive behavioral interventions to students for behaviors that are not aggressive, health dangerous, or destructive, such as nagging, swearing, and failing to maintain a neat appearance. Thank you. The use of electric skin shock conditioning devices as used at JRC raises health and safety concerns. The contingent food program and specialized food program may impose unnecessary risks affecting the normal growth and development and overall nutritional health and status of the students subjected to this adversive behavior intervention. Boom. The education program is organized around the elimination of problem behaviors, largely through punishment, including the use of delayed punishment practices, which is psychotic. There is limited evidence of comprehensive functional behavioral assessments, FBAs, in accordance with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Boom! I knew it. I knew those fuckers were not following the IDEA. Being conducted at JRC and limited evidence of the collection of data relevant to FBAs. Behavioral intervention plans are developed to support the use of adversive behavioral interventions with limited evidence of students being faded from the electric skin shock conditioning devices or other aversive interventions. Exactly. They never plan to stop. They want to torture that kid for the rest of their lives. Bastards. Evil bastards. I can't comprehend how anyone can look at this school and see it for anything other than what it is. Monstrous. Cruel beyond all human reason. Okay. Moving on. JRC promotes a setting that discourages social interaction between staff and students and among students. Students are provided with insufficient academic and special education instruction, including limited provision of related services. Why am I not surprised? They are teaching them to conform, to obey, not to survive. JRC often does not support the continuation of related services that have been previously recommended on the students' IEPs and or promote the transition of students to less restrictive environments. Indeed. New York keeps spilling that tea. It's mighty interestingly flavored. The privacy and the dignity of students is compromised in the course of the JRC's public program implementation. Yes. Get 'em. The collateral effects, increased fear, anxiety, or aggression on students resulting from JRC's punishment model are not adequately assessed, monitored, or addressed. Allergies, sorry. Information regarding the New York NYS students attending JRC. At the time of the site visit on April 25th and 26th, 148 NYS school-age students were enrolled at JRC. 82% of NYS students were placed at JRC by the New York City Department of Education. The additional NYS students represent the school district placements from 22 other NYS school districts. Most of these students have the disability classification, emotional disturbance, with IQ scores that fall in the low average to average range of intelligence. There are also a number of students with classification with autism with cognitive abilities falling in the range of mild to profound. It's intellectual disabilities, first of all, New York, and fuck you. Fuck you. You really think that's what? Guess what? New York? I've been diagnosed by 3 different teams. My IQ is 186. I can go dig up the papers if you'd like me to. Kiss my ass. Sorry. I did warn you it's been that kind of a day. Many of the students from NYS have the diagnosis of post traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Okay, so we're going to put people with PTSD into this place? Wait a minute, what the fuck? Please tell me I did not just read that. Tell me, please tell me I did not read. They put people who already had PTSD into this shithole of a place. Ugh. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Anybody who was neurodiverse. Let's just put it that way. The public school system has not been neurodiverse friendly like ever. Ever. And it's still not. There's been improvements, but if you think it's friendly towards us, no. Obsessive compulsive disorder and bipolar disorder. A number of students also have histories of abuse and abandonment. JRC has a near zero rejection policy and accepts students with psychiatric, developmental, and dually diagnosed disorders. It fucking disturbs the shit out of me that they put kids who already have PTSD in this school for treatment and this happens. My God. Moving on. In March 2006, NYSED requested that JRC submit the IEPs of all NYS students. NYSED received a total of 146 IEPs. 71 out of the 146 IEPs indicated students were receiving Level 3 behavioral interventions, which constituted a range of punishment techniques designed to reduce or eliminate target behaviors. The IEPs identified 10 additional NYS students for whom the court-ordered substituted judgment was being sought in order to include a Level 3 adversive procedures in their behavioral intervention programs. Of the 71 students' IEPs, 49 indicate NYC as the district of residence, 69%. A total of 833 of 71 students receiving behavioral interventions have educational classification of emotional disturbance, 46%. 21 are classified with autism. Bastards, because that's what we deserve. Right, JRC? We're not people, after all, right? 30% one student is classified as other health impaired. 1%. 5 are classified with intellectual disability. My God, New York, what's wrong with you? And 11 have multiple disabilities, 15%. We'll go into the rest tomorrow, but my brain can't wrap around a lot of that. I knew there were some other mental health issues besides the obvious neurodiverse people who tend to be the JRC's favorite targets. But the fact that there are people whose diagnosis is post traumatic stress disorder and that they get sent into this hellhole and this is what happens to them horrifies me on a level that I didn't even know I could be more horrified by the cruelty and inhumanity by this school. But apparently, there is a whole new level of horrified that I knew nothing about until today. Think about it, folks. Suffering from severe PTSD. And then, instead of getting help and the treatment and the compassion that you deserve to be shown as a human being, you get thrown into this place. I don't think I could possibly be more sickened, but it's this place. I'm sure they will find a brand new low to shock me with. I'm sorry, I'm not going to wrap it up like usual because I have to detox from the level of insanity that is this place. Alright, folks, we don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this subject. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe, don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this morning, and as always, we here at Smelly Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.